Thank you for your interest in the Downtown Yonge BIA's Economic Update for Q2 of 2024. We are really excited to be sharing this data with you as we begin the busy summer season. A quick look through our agenda before we dive into the data. First, we will go through a brief summary of the Canadian economic outlook from the Bank of Canada, followed by a deep dive into the profile of residents in our neighborhood. We will also go into some spending data from Moneris for 2023, and we're finishing up with an office occupancy update for the downtown core. We will also be sharing some other documents of interest, which can be found on our website at www.downtownyonge.com. Let's begin the presentation with a brief summary from the Bank of Canada's Monetary Policy Report for April of 2024. CPI inflation in Canada is easing as monetary policy works to reduce inflationary pressures. Core inflation is also coming down, although risks remain, and it will take more time to see if this progress proves durable. Inflation is also easing in most advanced economies and is expected to return to central bank targets in 2025. After stalling in the second half of 2023, economic growth in Canada has picked up. This largely reflects both strong population growth, which adds to the supply of workers, and a recovery in household spending. Labor market conditions continue to ease, and there is some evidence that wage growth has begun to moderate. Businesses are not raising prices as frequently, and inflation expectations are coming down slowly. Quarterly GDP growth is likely to be volatile around 2%. On an annual average basis, growth is 1.5% in 2024, supported by strong population growth. It then averages about 2% in 2025 and 2026. In the second quarter of 2024, inflation is expected to remain around 3%. On one hand, inflation for goods excluding food and energy is projected to continue to decline. On the other hand, communications prices are not expected to fall as much as in previous quarters. In addition, gasoline prices have increased in recent weeks due to factors such as the rise in global oil prices. Now we will dive into a demographic analysis of the residents of Downtown Yonge. We'll be starting off with a brief description of what we mean when we say a resident. The definition that we use is a 2-kilometer radius from Yonge College, which is approximately a 15 to 20-minute walk from the neighborhood. That radius accounts for nearly 250,000 people in 134,000 households. These households are on average 1 to 2 people working white-collar jobs, and 50% of our residents are visible minority, with the highest visible minorities represented as Chinese, South Asian, and Black. The average age of the household maintainer is 43 years old, and 14% of households are families with children at home. While more than half of our residents are renters, their top occupations are business, finance, and administration, sales and service, and education, government, religion, and social. In terms of their commuting patterns, our residents tend to live fairly close to their work, as 22% walk to their work every day. 20% will take public transit, 11% will drive, and 3% will cycle to their workplace. When looking at the average household income, as of 2023, it is sitting just under $120,000. However, by 2033, we will be seeing this increase to nearly $170,000, which will be 15% higher than the city average at that time. We wanted to include some new data on their behavioral preferences. Over 50% of them indicated medium to heavy TV viewership, along with medium to heavy internet usage. Their top programs for TV viewership were news and current affairs, documentaries, and evening local news. For internet usage, their top social networks were YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. In terms of other media consumption, 40% indicated medium to heavy radio usage, and a quarter of them indicated that they read newspapers. In terms of top activities done online, our residents tend to use it to access reviews and guides for purchasing products, services, or accessing restaurant information. They will also use it to share and refer links to websites or articles, as well as accessing news and listening to music via their favorite streaming video services. In terms of interests on their off time, arts and crafts, photography, and billiards and pool remain their top ones, along with golfing, hiking, and volunteering. Here you'll see a detailed breakdown of an average household budget for 2023. After shelter, the highest spending category was food at 18%, followed by transportation at 15% and household operation at 8%. Now, we also wanted to include some comparisons to 2018 to see how this budgeting has changed over the years. You'll see here that a couple of categories have gone up, while some have gone down in spending. Shelter and clothing have gone down 6% and 2% respectively, while transportation, household operations, and health have all gone down up 2%, and recreation and household furnishings have also gone up 1%. We wanted to also include some projections so that we can better understand what our residential population will look like over the next 10 years. As you can see from this chart, our number of households has increased 17% since 2018 and will increase another 13% in the next 5 years. Comparatively, the City of Toronto as a whole saw only a 7% increase since 2018 and will see only 9% increase in the next 5 years. Our population numbers have also grown significantly since 2018 and will grow another 13% in the next 5 years. And between now and 2033, we'll be seeing a 30% increase in households and nearly 30% increase in population. Now, if we look at this data from the perspective of what the composition of our households look like, overall, we will be seeing fairly stable household composition. However, we will see some slight shifts in the dominant age ranges, as you can see in this chart. While the average age of the household maintainer is currently 43, we will be seeing that jump up to 45 in the next 10 years. Now we will be turning our attention to the neighborhood spending analysis information from Moneris. We'll start off by briefly going through the methodology for this data set. Keeping in mind that with this data set, we are only looking at transactions made on Moneris payment terminals through debit or credit between January of 2023 to December of 2023. Moneris estimates that approximately 40% of transactions across Canada are made on Moneris payment portals. When we speak about specific sectors, here are how they are divided. For retail, it is apparel, household, department stores, and other retail. For services, we are talking about professional services, drugstores, health, and financial and other services. And for food service, we are talking about restaurants and groceries. A total of $207 million were spent through Moneris payment portals in 2023 in our neighborhood. While this is a 9% decrease from 2022, as you can see in this chart, the neighborhood saw significant gains in the first quarter of 2023, with a 26% increase in Q1 compared to 2022. As you can see, the spending is fairly evenly distributed throughout the year, peaking in August for the back-to-school season, along with the end of the year for the holiday season. When looking at this data from the transaction volume perspective, we saw nearly 5.7 million transactions done in 2023, which is only 1% lower than the year prior. You'll see from this chart that while the numbers stayed fairly the same, the timing of when these transactions happened varied slightly from 2022. The first 2 quarters of the year saw significant gains in comparing it to 2022. However, we did see some slight drop-offs by the end of the year. If you watched our economic update from 2023, you'll see that this chart is fairly familiar, and so are this list of postal codes. These are the top 6 postal codes by dollar spent in our neighborhood, and these top 6 account for nearly 1/3 of the total dollars spent in Downtown Yonge in 2023. All 6 of these postal codes are located within that 2-kilometer radius of our neighborhood and also account for the highest transactions per cards, indicating a higher frequency of spend in the neighborhood. To provide a visual of where these postal codes are located, we've included here a map with Yonge Street in the middle and the top 4 postal codes indicated here in different colors. These postal codes of M5G, M5B, M4Y, and M7A account for 25% of the total neighborhood spend, making our nearby residents a key market for businesses to tap into. Conversely, when looking at average transaction size, the top postal codes varied quite a bit, especially when broken down by sector. The average transaction size for food service and retail stayed relatively stable when compared to 2022. The services sector saw their average transaction size grow by $400. The top postal codes by average transaction size for services and food services were located in the Ottawa area, while retail saw the top postal code come from Montreal. The last section of the presentation will focus on the office occupancy index for the downtown core of Toronto. This data is provided by the Strategic Regional Research Alliance and saw the average office occupancy index grow to 65% in May of 2024. The peak day in the office is Wednesdays, with 74% of office occupancy, and the lowest day is Friday at 38%. According to the SRA, Tuesdays and Thursdays are increasing, but the peak day remains Wednesday. Friday showed a slight decrease, while Mondays increased by 3 points. Those employees who are not in the office due to holidays, business travel, or sick days, and are working outside of the office is almost a third of the office-based workforce. They expect that with the new workplace attendance policies gradually coming to effect, the office occupancy should be increasing in the coming months. That marks the end of our presentation, but we did want to include a couple of other documents that might be of interest. We've had a lot of questions around our resident profile, so we are releasing as a companion piece to this presentation a brand new one-page summary with key facts about our residents to help businesses better understand our community. We also have 3 sector-specific one-pagers on our website, which dive into more information about spending within those sectors in the area. You can find all of these resources in the research page of our website at www.downtownyonge.com. We thank you so much for your interest in our neighborhood, and feel free to reach out for any questions or comments you may have.